blessed good evening to one and all. Here again at St. John Parish Church, in the yard of St. John Parish Church, looking in the southeasterly direction towards Bath Beach. You can see the cable and wireless Earth satellite station at Bath St. John. And this is Bath Beach. You can see across the Concept Bay, which is also in St. John, a fishing village at College Savannah St. John. And we can see southeasterly into St. Philip, where the lighthouse is, and so on. And this is Park House Village, St. John, down below here. Now in the looking at the historic graves, which dates back to the 1600s. The grave of David John Howard Thompson, born. He was the Queen's Counsel and Member of Parliament. He was born the 25th of December 1961 in England to Barbadian parents. He born Christmas Day 1961 and died the 23rd of October 2010 on my birthday. 23rd of October is my birthday. The beloved husband of Mara, who was a St. Lucian, and he was the husband of Misha. He was the father of Misha, Oya, and Osa Marie, and adoptive father of Dario, Prime Minister of Barbados from 2008 to 2010. He succeeded Owenafa, who was the second longest serving Prime Minister of Barbados from 1994 to 2008. And then David Thompson succeeded him briefly from 2008 until his untimely death in 2010. David Thompson was born to Barbadian parents, a white mother and black father, both from Barbados. So David Thompson is more or less a Barbadian. So this is a beautiful country church here to the east of the island, on a hill which is also a part of Hackerton Cliff. St. John Parish Church sits on Hackerton's Cliff, over 1,000 feet above sea level. So this is Bath Beach here, and Park House Village down below here. Sundial. So this is a tourist attraction. It is a church, but in my opinion, it is more than a church. The grave of Clarence Farrell Haynes of Clifton Hall, St. John. This is all the Haynes family grave, who were planter class family in St. John and in Barbados. And Gwendoline Loyal Haynes, wife of Clarence Farrell Haynes. Charles Wynyard Haynes, son of Edmund Haynes and Susan Haynes, died in February 1942. And Isabel Seeley. Yes. So going back down into the grave of Thomas Henry Seeley, who was buried upright. He said he wanted to be buried upright so that he can enjoy the view. Thomas Henry Seeley, son of Sir John Seeley and Anne Isabella Seeley, born the 14th of January 1845 and died the 20th of June 1904. 28 years, Sir John Seeley, 28 years, Attorney General of Barbados, died on the 30th of February 1899 at the cliff at the age of 91. simply to the cross I cling. So I'm coming out now of the church yard. Hey, oh, the, some more of the Haynes family, the Honorable Richard Haynes of Easy Hall Plantation, and the Honorable J.A. Haynes of Newcastle Plantation, both in St. John. So Richard Haynes was the eldest son of the Honorable J.A. Haynes of Newcastle Plantation in St. John. And he died the 8th of May 1937 at the age of 81. And Mary Howard Haynes of Newcastle Plantation, St. John, the last of her family members to be alive, died at the age of 97 in July 1957. All the East Coast. Here lieth the body of Ferdinando Palaeologus, descended from the emperor line of the last Christian emperors of Greece. Church warden of this parish from 1655 to 1656. Vestryman 20 years. It was said that Ferdinando Palaeologus was buried under the organ loft in the church before moving here. So this is all the churchyard. Sacred to the memory of Reverend William Lake Pinder, rector of the parish of St. George, who died of fever at Rowan's in St. George on the 4th of July 1841 in the 60th year of his age, and of Harriet Wilson, his wife, who departed this life at Eastonton Rectory in the community of York on the 24th of February 1836 at the age of 52. Sacred also to the memory of their second son, Charles William, lieutenant in HM. I'm not sure what HM stands for, but he was the 55th Regiment who died of fever in Fort William, Calcutta on the 18th of February 1841 in the 26th year of his age. And to that of Elizabeth Margaret, the only daughter, wife of Captain John Wilson, late of HM, 93rd are Sutherland Highlanders, who died of fever at Rowan, St. George, Barbados, on the 26th of October 1841, in the 32nd year of her age. This tablet is inscribed with all the feeling of tenderness, of filial, eternal, and conjugal affection by the only survivors of the family. Barbados, Barbados, the 26th of May, 1848. Stanley Clifford Thorne. Stanley Clifford Thorne. As I said before, people don't get buried in this cemetery anymore, except it's a by grave. They have to get buried on the other side of the road because this cemetery is filled now. So that is why they don't put no people in here anymore. In loving memory of Henry Noel St. John, who was related to Sahara Bernard St. John, who was the third Prime Minister of Barbados. The grave of Charles Miller Austin, who was the first black man to own a plantation in St. John. So this is the colored tomb here. Charles Miller Austin owned Malvern Plantation, St. John. And his wife Martha also laid to rest here. Charles Miller Austin, born the 26th of May 1857 and died the 11th of August 1942. In loving memory of Ambrosine Barrow, born 1880 and died in 1942, and daughter Ada C. Bridgman, born 1907 and died in 1990. These are all colored. plantation owners. Bernard Leslie Barrow was related to late Earl Walton Barrow, national hero, first Prime Minister, and father of independence. Bernard Leslie Barrow died the 23rd of April 1962 at the age of 88 years. And his daughter Marie Gill, born 1908 and died in 1992 at rest. Eustace C. Gill, husband of Marie Gill, born 1903, died in 1992. The Reverend Canon Eric Llewellyn Payne, born the 25th of March 1924 and died the 23rd of September 2021, rector of St. John Parish Church from the 20th of January 1968 to the 31st of March 1989. E. Thorne Gollop, who was the grandfather of Ralph Thorne, our current leader of the opposition, Ralph Thorne, and Sir Fred Gollop as well. He's the grandfather of Sir Fred Gollop. To the colored section of this church, in this churchyard. In memory of Ivy Branch Bradshaw, née McConney, died the 30th of August 1974 at the age of 91 years, and her daughter Iris Branch Banachie, who died the 2nd of September 1988 at the age of 73. Iris Branch Banachie was born in 1914 at British Guyana. She was a white Guyanese, known as a Portuguese Guyanese. She lived in Barbados, and she was a horticulturist, the founder of Andromeda Botanical Gardens just off the East Coast in Bathsheba, St. Joseph. She founded Andromeda Gardens in the 1950s. When she died in 1988, the gardens was later entrusted to the Barbados National Trust. Iris Banachie was married to Harry Bailey of the Harry Bailey Observatories in Clapham. That was named after him. He later married to a Banachie from Scotland. So this is a very historic graveyard. Map showing you the list of tombs in the church. So this is the beautiful, Gothic, magnificent St. John Parish Church. From here you can overlook the East Coast. The mayor's tomb here. The mayor's family. Gladys Mears, Joseph Brace Mears, Georgina Finlayson Mears, wife of Joseph Brace Mears, a native of Glasgow, Scotland, born the 18th of May 1850 and died the 6th of March 1955. Rachel Mears, daughter of Joseph Brace Mears. So I'm a part of the Mears family, by the way. My mother is a Mears from Branchbury, St. Joseph. My mother is a Mears. My mother, one aunt, and two uncles are Mearses from Branchbury, St. Joseph. My grandmother married to a Mears from Branchbury, St. Joseph. My grandmother was originally a Levine from Carrington's village in St. Thomas, but then she later married to a Mears from Branchbury, St. Joseph. They married and moved to She married him and moved to St. Joseph in the 50s, which is my grandfather, my mother's father. So the first two aunts are Levines. My first two aunts are Levines from Carrington's village, St. Thomas, which later moved to the Vault Road in St. Thomas. Samuel Lewis Mears, born 1834 and died in 1922. By grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, Ephesians 11 verse 8, erected by his children. So I'm a Moor. but still a Mary's. My father is a Moor. Satchmore that sings or that used to sing years ago with the Sand Pebbles group is my father. And he is from the beautiful parish of St. George. Overlooking the east coast now. St. John Parish Church sits on Hackerton Square. Northeasternly now, I'm looking towards Church View and Clifton Hall and St. John. So we can see into St. Joseph. We can see the St. Margaret's Church, which is the sister parish to St. John Parish Church. St. Margaret's Anglican Church, which is at Glen Burnie in St. John, named after Margaret Haynes, who is buried in this churchyard. St. Margaret sits on the old Glen Burnie plantation. St. Margaret's Church was built in 1863. St. Margaret's Anglican Church is the sister church of St. John Parish Church. So this is the church looking over to the cemetery on the east coast, looking into the Scotland district, which comprises of St. Joseph and St. John, St. Joseph and St. Andrew. So this is Church View, St. John, over here. So this is the northeastern coastline. You can see Bathsheba and St. Joseph and Catawash, all in St. Joseph on the east coast, and Barclays Park Beach in St. Andrew, which is on the east coast, a popular beach for holding the crop over fets. You can see all to the north in St. Lucie at Pico Tenerife, to the far end here. St. John's Parish Church is more Gothic. It is a tourist attraction. It says St. John Parish Church, first erected in 1645, destroyed by fire and rebuilt in 1676, destroyed by hurricane and rededicated in 1836. Now inside of the beautiful church. Lovely altar with the beautiful stained glass windows. Reredos behind the altar. So this is where the choir sits. A list of priests who served the church over the years. A memoriam of Reverend William Leslie, first rector of St. John from 1653 to 1676, grandson of the fifth laird of King Craigie, and great-great-grandson by his grandmother of John Leslie, 8th Baron of Balquin, and the memory of Alvin E. Simmons, rector of St. John from 1951 to 1962. He was a diligent priest. The Reverend Dudley Moore, rector of this parish from 1943 to 1950. Canon and Rural Dean, a faithful and wise steward, in memory of Clement Culpan, rector of this parish from 1928 to 1943. Charles Clark Hunt, rector of this parish from 1904 to 1925. Canon and Rural Dean, and Evan McGregor, rector of this parish from 1879 to 1904. So this is the lovely organ console where the music is transmitted. In memory of Robert Stewart Fraser, born the 15th of October 1903 and died the 16th of April 1993, parochial treasurer of this parish from 1944 to 1959, and his wife Lauren Mitchinson Fraser, born the 17th of July 1911 and died the 26th of October 1994, postmistress of this parish from 1941 to 1960. To love is to serve. They are the parents of Professor Henry Fraser, who was a doctor and heart surgeon and a lecturer at University of the West Indies. This is the pulpit here that is made from 6 different types of wood. So tourists visit this church daily. St. John pipe organ. It is said that Ferdinando Paleologus was buried under this loft first before he was buried in the churchyard. So this is the lovely pipe organ. The 10 Commandments are in the back, behind the organ. So St. John is the parish in which most of the white Barbadian population originated from. Most of them, their ancestry dates back to Scotland and Ireland, who came to Barbados as indentured servants. This is the marble baptismal font and the spiral staircase. Spiral staircase here. Here lieth interred the body of Mr. Richard Hannis, born November 5th, 1667, and died the 19th of May, 1752, and also of his daughter, Elizabeth Hannis, born the 17th of January, 1728, 29, and died the 17th of August, 1733. The statue of Madonna and Child with the infant St. John beneath her feet. So this is St. John's Church, St. John's Parish Church. So tourists visit this church daily. Tourists visit St. John's Church daily, either to visit the grave or to look at the scenery. This historic church. So this is Hackerton's Cliff. I'm on. Thank you guys for watching now, and do have a blessed and a wonderful evening.